I'm working overtime. How's that for an intro, Nate? Welcome to Tabletop Shop.
Hello and welcome back to the Tabletop Shop podcast. Our focus this week is on the 2022 Spiel des Jahres winner, and on games that do not deserve their themes. I am one of your co-hosts, Nate Clark, and as always, seated halfway across the country, a man who needs no introduction.
That's me. You all know who I am. Nothing else necessary.
Yeah, I felt like I didn't actually need to introduce you after saying that, so...
Yeah, all right. Thanks, dude. Well, what if it's our listeners' first time to the podcast, though?
Well, who are you?
We should just leave it unmentioned
let's
until
do
you
that.
accidentally say my
I'll
name.
say your name at some point. Cody,
Okay.
Question for you.
Dang it!
What is, if you had to pick one or two, you can pick two if you can't decide, what's a go-to game in your collection for a new gamer? Let's say somebody who's only ever played the likes of Monopoly, Battleship, stuff like that.
Sure.
They come over to play a game. What are you pulling off your shelf?
Number one, I think easily is Splendor.
Okay.
I kind of just default to that. And it's easy because the only reason it's in my collection is for that reason.
That is an
It's
easy
like,
answer.
I don't enjoy it super much. Although the expansions help a little bit, but
Oh,
I
do
don't
you
own
have
the
the-
expansion,
okay,
so that's
okay.
not doing anything for me. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing about Splendor, I'm really hesitant to say that would be the one I would pick because I've played so many other better games now that I don't know. I would have this opinion of like, they're going to play this and they're not going to think it's fun, and then they're not going to, I'm more inclined to do something like maybe Dominion or Carcassonne, something that I find more interesting, but maybe I'm blinded by my own interests, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would go with like Dominion or Carcassonne or something, but I find those, like Splendor to me is a lot easier to teach.
Sure.
And usually a game night is going to be, we don't have a whole bunch of time, or the people that we're playing with, if they need an intro game, they have like no knowledge of hobby board gaming, so I don't want to like drop a more complicated deck builder system on them.
All right. Cody, what did you play this week?
I actually have a couple things to
Let's
talk about.
do it.
I know this might be a little rare since I'm a little bit busier lately. The first one, have you heard of the game Box One?
Box One. I don't think so.
Box One. Okay, I'm excited to tell you about this. I heard about this because Kirsten talked to Jen, and Jen told her about this, so it got kind of passed through the grapevine. And it's marketed as a solo game. I played it with Kirsten. And spoiler alert, we actually haven't quite finished it yet because nope, I can't even explain why we haven't finished it yet because it will spoil part of it. And I will try to spoil as little as possible about this. Box One is a little solo or two-player experience by an actor, Nate.
I just looked it up. I see that.
Neil Patrick Harris. Yeah,
What
super
on earth?
whack. Like, what are you doing, Neil Patrick Harris? Why are you making a board game? And it's like marketed as a game, buy one, for one. And it's essentially a little escape room type experience in a box. But this is far superior to any of the exit the games that I've encountered, because all of them are just sort of dumb and you just find a 3-digit code and all this. And the thing is, I want to tell you so much about it, but the game, the experience unfolds as you play it. So if I try to describe any of the
You're
things you
spoiling
encounter,
things.
I'm spoiling it. So all I can say is this is well worth the buy. I think you and Anna would love this. It was like $24 on Amazon. You won't be able to play it again. It is like a one-time thing. But it is a far superior experience to any of the like escape room style games I have experienced.
Okay. I've played one exit game and it was pretty boring.
Okay. There's also like the unlock games.
Yeah,
I
I've
don't know if
never
you've heard
played
of
those.
Yeah, those are a little bit better than the exit games, but Box One is still the best that I have played.
Okay, cool. Noted.
I am sad. I'm sad that I can't talk about it. And even if you get it and you play it, you and I won't be able to talk about it on the podcast because
Right.
we'll spoil it for anyone else. So you and I will just have to talk privately, I think. The other game that also have not finished yet, because Kirsten and I got back from a long weekend trip and had a little bit of time in the evening to finally learn and play a couple rounds of Western Leg Ends, or Western Legends, if you prefer. Yeah. So I haven't experienced a whole bunch of it, just took a few turns. I think it definitely is more catered to like maybe a 4 or even 5 player experience. Unless it can only be played with 4 players. No, actually you can play with up to 6 because there's a card on there that says up to 6. And I think that's mainly because there's sort of this honor system in the game where you can get points as an outlaw or get points as like a lawman. And you can, if you're a lawman, you can go and chase down and arrest the people that are playing as outlaws. And so there's kind of this balancing system. So it's a little bit harder to do that with just 2 people. But it does have this little NPC system that it incorporates for less people. So that works out pretty well. But yeah, pretty fun. Sandbox.
I have a question. I've always wondered this about this game. So it's sandboxy, but that doesn't describe what the game is. Like, what are the mechanisms within the game? Like, okay, it's sandboxy. It's Red Dead Redemption. You can go do whatever you want, but like, what does that actually look like practically?
Yeah. It basically just plays out as a point race. I think the game ends once someone has hit a certain point value. You can tailor that according to how long of a game you want, and then you like finish the round and take another turn. Then whoever has the most points wins. But to that end, you can get points in different ways. So you can try to move your way up on the given like honor system track things. I keep saying honor system. That's not what they call it. It's just what comes to mind. But if you get far enough up on an outlaw, you're getting more points. Or if you get far enough up on the lawman, the martial track, then you're getting more points there. You can go roll some dice to do some prospecting, and you're trying to get gold nuggets, and you can sell those for both money that you use in the game as well as you get points out of it. You can fight other people. It uses this, it's a actual deck of cards, like ace through king, 4 different suits, but all the cards have like a little unique ability on them that you can use in fights, but then you can also use those cards to play poker. So it's kind of this multi-use card system. All those different things give you points in different ways. So it's sort of it's not really a point salad. It's a point salad in the sense of there's different avenues to victory. How about that?
It's a meager salad.
Yeah, it's a light salad. It's a little bit. It's like a side. You go to Applebee's or something, and you get like a little Caesar on the side. That's what it is.
This, you know what this sounds like? What this reminds me of, and this is going to be a real throwback. All right, this sounds like potentially the first game that you ever quote unquote designed. You remember that you made some game where like you were moving around on a map, and then you could go hunting and kill animals, and you could go to the gold mine and roll and get gold and all this kind of stuff.
Well, there wasn't a gold mine. I do still have that. I have not pulled it out probably since that time that we played. Yeah, bludgeons and flagons is what I called it.
That's what it reminds me of when you describe Western Legends. So that's a compliment, I guess.
I think maybe I enjoyed my game a little bit more than Western Legends. Not to brag, but
all right.
I finished Western Legends.
That's it for you?
Yeah. What you got?
I played a couple games. One, Camel Up, 2nd edition. Kind of just a hectic racing game where you are not a camel, but you are betting on the camels. And the camels are moving kind of randomly, dice-based in a way. There's a few other random factors thrown in there, so it's not just rolling dice. And then there's rounds, and in every round you're kind of betting on camels, and you can bet in a few different ways. It was all right. I think we only played it with 4. I think it would be better with more people because it's kind of supposed to have this party type of vibe to it where everyone should just be kind of going crazy, Didn't really have that vibe, so
Not that I don't think you've played Ready Set Bet.
I have.
Oh, you have? Okay. Well, I have not. How do you compare the two?
They couldn't be I was going to say they couldn't be more different, and that's almost true. Like, they really feel like very, very different games. I mean, Ready, Set, Bet is in real time. That's the biggest difference. And so it's really stressful. You're making lots of bets, and there's a ton of different factors that affect how you can score based on where you play your chips, and there's different special powers and stuff. It's way more complex in a way, way more hectic, way more crazy. Camel Up is also supposed to be crazy, but not in a stressful way, just in a hilarity ensues kind of way. So they're very, very different games. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Also played Ora et Labora. This is a Rosenberg game, a lesser known Rosenberg game. Basically, it is a tableau builder, I guess. It's kind of sandboxy again. It felt to me, I haven't played Le Havre. Apparently, it has a lot of similarities to Le Havre, but it really felt like a blend of Agricola and Feast for Odin. There was a lot of Agricola type stuff where you have your player mat out and you're building buildings, which are just cards, but then you're placing those out on your mat, Agricola style kind of. But then you can explore and make your mat bigger, and there's different avenues that you can go down, and different resources that you can invest in or not invest in. One of the coolest parts is the resource system, which is a rondelle in the middle, and every round this dial moves, and there's like 7 or 8 resources on there. And whenever you want to take a resource, you move it all the way up to 0, which is right up next to the dial. But the further the dial moves, the more valuable the resources are until they're claimed. And then they jump up to 0, right up next to the needle. And so if a resource hasn't been claimed for 3 or 4 rounds, its value might be like 6 or 7. And then somebody finally claims it, and it goes back to 0. And so all the resources start on the same spot, but then they get more and more spread out kind of as the game goes. It's a cool mechanism. I enjoyed it a lot. The game itself is fun. It's a little not too stressful. It's not as stressful as Agricola. It's just kind of, I don't know. It definitely merits more plays, but I did enjoy it. And played Marine Worlds just the other night, actually. This is the expansion for Ark Nova. Adds in a lot of like marine themed animals, obviously. I don't know exactly how many cards, but it's probably like a quarter. It's probably less than a quarter of the cards that are already in the deck, or close to a quarter. So obviously making the big deck bigger. But the coolest thing is that there's a ton of different upgraded versions of those starter 5 action cards. So you have those 5 action cards that you're moving around, and you're taking actions. They go back to the beginning and they work their way up again. That whole system, also in Civilization and New Dawn, it's that, but it has a bunch of, like, you can already upgrade those cards in the game, but this then adds in a bunch of different versions of those 4 cards. And you do this, or those 5 cards, and you'll draft a couple at the beginning of the game and swap them out for the ones that you would normally start with. So you get the already kind of upgraded versions, and then those can still be upgraded again. It adds a lot of variability into the game with all these different actions. Adds a few other things, but that's the biggest thing. And enjoyed it quite a bit. I feel like the game we just played is one of the more, if not the most satisfying game we ever played. I mean, in fairness, it came down, like the score was 12-14. It was a really close game of Ark Nova, so it was intense. But yeah,
it always sounds so sad whenever you hear a final score for Ark Nova.
I know, man. Last but not least, a game I have wanted to play ever since it was mentioned on the Dice Tower many, many, many times, but I could never do it because it's a group game. I was like, I'm not going to buy a $70 group game. Heat pedal to the metal.
Okay.
Man, this game works so well. I don't even, like, it shouldn't be so thematic as thematic as the mechanisms are. They shouldn't be so engrossing, but they just work so well. And it's so intense, a little stressful, but in a good way. I would, like, for anybody that plays board games and also has any kind of an interest in cars or racing, I guess racing kind of specifically, this is a must play. Maybe not a must buy because it's expensive, but it's a must play because the theme it just works so well. The mechanisms just blend so perfectly. You're speeding up, you're slowing down for corners. It just works, man. It's crazy. Wow. So a lot of fun. I really want to play it again.
That is a ringing endorsement right there. I'm actually moderately interested to try it now.
Yeah, I mean, like, I definitely would not buy it if I were you. I mean, I don't know how it plays at 2, but we played it at 5, and it was really good. And I think if you play it 2, probably there's like an Automa, like, Ghost Racer that goes in there too, but it's probably not as interesting. So, if you have the chance to try it, like, jump on the chance. Absolutely, don't pass it up. But, like, don't go buy it just to play it with Kirsten. Like, that's probably not going to be a good experience. So,
Hold on. One. Aha! It is on Board Game Arena. But I really doubt there's a solo variant.
Yeah, definitely. And also, Board Game Arena is an amazing, I don't want to say tool. It's an amazing way to play games. But this one, I feel like something about being there, again, because it's so thematic, something about sitting there at the table with the cards on the track, playing your cards, I think is definitely contributes to that experience.
Yeah.
And then again, playing it with other people is a must. So, alrighty. That's it for the weekly news, if you want to call it news. Let's get on to the 2022 Spiel des Jahres winner. Still hasn't been name dropped. Okay, Cody, you've definitely played this more recently, so you, sir, are obligated.
I'm going to do my best to still just not say what it is.
Go. Okay.
No, that's dumb.
You do you, I guess.
All right. Cascadia, we'll spoil it. Welcome to the Cascadia podcast, because this is the Cascadia podcast for once. A magical game about the Pacific Northwest, of which Nate and I both are native born. I mean, you grew up in Eastern Oregon. Does that still count as the Pacific Northwest? Surely it does.
Like, technically, yes, but I think it's a very different. Like, the entire state is included in the Pacific Northwest, but it's really not. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But then you lived a lot of your life in the Pacific Northwest.
Absolutely.
So this is near and dear to our hearts, the thematicness of it. And what this is...
Like, what? Is it though? Like, to me, it just feels like Canada or Alaska. Like, I don't get Pacific Northwest vibes, so...
I mean, Canada is sort of part of the Pacific Northwest.
It is, though. Yeah.
Just not the Pacific Northwestern U.S.
Anyways.
America in general. Thank you for sticking with us through this tangent, ladies and gentlemen. Cascadia is a tile drafting and tile placement game where the tiles have different types of terrain, and once you're putting them down into your own little spot, your player area, whatever they designate it as, your field, at the end of the game, you're going to get points for your largest connected terrain type of like the 4 or 5 different terrain types. And that's also a competitive thing with the other player for whoever gets the biggest one. And then in addition to that, you're trying to place down 5 different animal types in different patterns. This is different kind of every game because there's different cards that allow the animals to score different ways, but they score off of shapes. So if you're going to take the foxes always have some way that they score off of the other animals. So you might have a card where the foxes, you score a fox tile based off of how many other types of animals it touches. And then the bears always play off of groups. So if you have a group of like 3 bears in a certain shape, then you'll get a certain number of points. But each of the tiles you're putting down, they're not necessarily specific to just one animal. They'll give you an option of a couple different animals you can put down on them. So you're trying to work out the best possible puzzle combination of the animals that you're getting. And I neglected to mention that this drafting game, you draft not only a tile, but you draft an animal token that is above that tile. But you don't necessarily have to put that animal on the token on the tile that you just took. So yeah, there's a lot of strategy in trying to figure out which tiles do you want, but you're also going to get stuck with a certain animal, or which animals do you want, but then you're going to get stuck with a certain tile, and you're really trying to maximize how many points you can get out of the limited number of turns over the course of a game. Nate, how'd I do?
A little long-winded, but I'm not going to complain because you did it, and I didn't have to. So
okay, sweet. Did I leave anything out?
No, I mean, you almost left out the little tokens that get drafted dually with the tiles, but you didn't.
Sure.
So, good job.
But I did. All right. That's Cascadia. Enough of that. Let's talk about the cool, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Okay. The first point for me, something I like, is how quickly this plays. Now, I've only ever played it at 2, so I can't speak for how it would play at different player counts, and you might have to refresh my memory. So one person drafts, and then do they also play their tokens that they just drafted down before the next person drafts? Or is it simultaneous?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah, you have to do that even before you reveal what replaces that item in the row.
Okay. Oh, that's right. It gets replaced immediately. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but even so, like, unless you're playing with a bunch of people who struggle with analysis paralysis, like even at 4, it probably plays decently quickly, I would expect. But I only ever played it at 2, and it really clicked by, which I enjoyed quite a bit. Quick turns, relatively short game, like 30 to 45 minutes at 2 players. So that's something I appreciated for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, my first point's basically the same thing. It's a quick but crunchy game. So it's a game that you can knock out pretty quick, but it has a lot of thinking to offer. And I have mentioned this a couple of times in the podcast, especially recently, but this is a genre or a style of game that I've really come to appreciate. Something that I can pull out, can play quickly, but not just be bored with a dull game. Something that provides a nice experience.
So speaking of which, what's your update on how maybe you should save this till the end, but I'm wondering what your update is on your feelings about the game, because right after you got it, you kind of mentioned that you liked Acropolis more and Kirsten liked this more. Like, are you coming around on this game, or are you still kind of like, nah?
It seems like it may have a little bit more replayability than Acropolis, and especially this does have expansions, and I plan on getting, an expansion. I plan on getting the expansion. I think that'll definitely help.
Is that
I'd still be more excited to play Acropolis, though, I think.
At this point? Okay, I got you. So I know that there's something called Rolling Rivers, but is that an upcoming, like, Rollin' Right or something, or is that the expansion?
The Rivers thing sounds like it was the expansion.
Okay.
But I also remember looking up, there's like a few different things attached to it, and only one of them actually ended up being an expansion. So maybe what you listed actually is the rolling version.
Okay. Well, my next point is similar. It's kind of a general statement, which is that the rules are relatively simple, but the strategy is relatively deep. I really like the 2 different ways that you score. So you have the terrain types that score just by creating large sections of them, but then you have all of the animal tokens that score irrespective of what terrain they're on. And so you have those 2 layers of scoring going on, but then you have all the different types of animal tokens. And then I really, really enjoy the dual drafting. I think that's my favorite part of the game. It's nothing crazy. It's just a little innovative, and it's like, what if 2 things are randomly paired up with each other, and you just have to draft in those set pairs, and it just is a really cool way of there being randomness, but not necessarily just straight up luck, right?
Yeah. As a side note, this isn't a point for me, although I suppose it kind of contributes. The game lets you break that rule in a cool way, where you can get these little nature tokens, I think they're called. It's just like a little pine cone. Yeah. And you get that in a very specific situation. It's where some of the tiles, instead of having multiple terrain and multiple animal types, they only have a single terrain and single animal, so they're less useful for building your little tableau system. But if you cover it, you get a nature token. Then you can spend those to take any tile and any token from the row, as opposed to having to take a matching pair, or you can spend them to refresh the rows. So it gives you a little bit of wiggle room if you don't like what you see for your options, which is pretty cool.
A little bit of luck mitigation.
Yeah, that basically just Yeah, I'm gonna say that's a whole point, because that was long enough to be a point. But I'm still gonna say my second point.
Go for it, man.
Which is, I really like how there are multiple things to think about and balance. Basically what you were just saying, but between the terrain and the animal types. When you take a terrain piece, depending on where you put it down, like you don't always have to match up terrain types. That's not a legal placement restriction, but you really, really want to, because if you waste a tile doing that to put it somewhere else, like you probably lost out in a few points. So you really want to try to be as efficient as possible, but then you also have to balance where you're putting all these different animals, and not just animals in connection with each other, but the animals play off of each other a lot of times, which means you can accidentally break some of your little areas that you've built up. So yeah, I just like that there's so many things to balance at the same time and to maximize.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I like, which is one of the few areas of player interaction in this game, but in a way you can kind of hate draft. But it's not super mean hate drafting. Like, you rarely want to hate draft as opposed to just taking something that helps you. Like, most of the time, there will be something out there that helps you, Or maybe you'll have a choice between two things, like you really want a fish, like a salmon, whatever. And you don't really care which terrain type. So you look at the other person and you're like, which terrain type might they be more interested in? And I'll take that one. So it's that kind of light hate drafting, which is kind of nice, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, or you're going for, maybe you can really use a salmon or a fox this time. So you have a look at the other person, what they might be trying to get, and you're going to take the one they need first so you don't lose it. Yeah. My third and final is I like the variety in scoring, how you have your 5 different animals, which we actually haven't listed. But for the listeners who care, there's the bears, foxes, hawks, moose, and salmon. And then each of them comes with 4 different scoring cards. And they come in sets. I couldn't really figure out if you're supposed to play with like all the A cards or all the B cards, but I think you could just randomize them if you want. And
absolutely.
Yeah, a whole bunch of different combinations of cards.
You could even play with just all bears if you wanted to. That'd be cool.
What? I don't think that would work, dude.
That wouldn't work. Don't try that.
I kind of want to try it.
No,
now.
you don't.
Figure
Don't
out some
do
way
it.
to make it. Okay, fine. But yeah, that's cool. It really, if the game only had one scoring system for each animal, it would get stale pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
But
yeah,
as is, it really lets you play a different game up to 16 different times, because I think it's 4 times 3 times 2 would be the number of combinations.
I feel like
that's 24.
I feel like that's something that's really come with the modern era of board gaming, is this that kind of variety, Like, sure, there's lots of games where you draw cards off the top of a deck, lots of classic games, Careers, or maybe the Game of Life or something like that. But this is different, right? It's not just luck. It's like, here's the setup for this game. And the next time you play this game, the setup could be quite a bit different, right? That's not, as far as I can really think of, as far as kind of classic games go, that's not really something that you see in older games.
Yeah. Battleship, maybe, literally, but that's about it.
Yeah, right, in a way. Kind of. Or Clue, maybe, but like obviously, because you can only play Clue once otherwise.
Yeah. Do you know what I'd like to see? Is Monopoly with a modular board, homie.
A modular board?
You randomize where all the tiles show up, so boardwalks.
Every single tile?
Yeah.
That'd be ridiculous.
That'd be crazy.
Somebody's done it. All right. Cons. Let's get on to the negatories.
Let's do it. Convicts. Here we come.
Convict number 1 is the one that we probably find most egregious, the both of us. So I already mentioned that in a 2-player game, it's fast, it's snappy, it's just back and forth. But the downside to a 2-player game is that you must empty out all of the tiles in the game, flip them face down, and sort out like half of them.
Yeah. Well, literally half. It's 42 and 43 is the division.
Ugh, that is so stupid. I mean, I don't know if there's a way around it. Like, it just makes me angry. The fact that the tiles are the game timer is why you have to do that. Otherwise, you can just draw them out of a bag.
Yeah, there's not really a way around it. That is my first dislike, and I complained about this when I first talked about it on the podcast. Yeah, it sucks when you want a nice, quick, snappy game, but the setup takes just as long as the game takes. Then I'm exaggerating, but that's what it feels like sometimes.
Very small annoyance. I'll even save that one for the last because it's so small. This game's so moving on to my third point. We'll save the second point for the end. Third point, third convict.
Okay. So no, this is your second.
It's
point.
my third point, Cody.
Okay.
Oh wait, you should go first. If I'm already doing my third one, you should do your next.
Yeah, come on, dude. Okay, so my second. No, this is my third point.
Okay. Well, then I should just go. Actually, I should just go if you're doing your third one.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. This game's a little too multiplayer solitaire for me. There's a tiny bit of interaction with the drafting, and I think with the terrain scoring, I think is also kind of relative to the other person. But other than that, I don't know. Like, maybe it's fine for most people, but for me, I prefer a little bit more of like it matters what the other person's doing.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I might relate to that in the sense that it's a puzzle that you kind of learn to solve, and you figure out how to do well at it. And after you do that, there's not much more to it. And that will be my other point. I only have 2 points, but I'm going to call this my third con.
Okay.
Just to keep it the spirit of things. No, screw that. Is this my seventh con?
Whoa, Cody, slow down. All right.
Like I could see myself getting a bit tired of the game over time. I have confidence that an expansion would help that, but that you gotta take it. You gotta take the base game as is, right? And it's dope, but it may have a limited lifespan.
Well, I think it's something, this is also a point for me. It's something that I wouldn't want to come back to too often. I think it is a game worth owning, but it's not something I would want to come back to too terribly often. So I feel like there is kind of this, maybe after a little while of owning it, you start to feel like, okay, it's a little stale at this point without an expansion, right? So
yeah. Yeah, I hear that.
Okay.
So what's your 4th point then?
My second point, the one I skipped, very small annoyance. This is something you mentioned. It's something I also noticed the first time that I played it. The art on the animal cards is like you have like half of them are original art, and then half of them are the pirated copy off of YouTube art because it's all mirrored. It's kind of like,
it's true though. It's true.
Like for such a, like this game did so well. Could they really not have just gotten 4 original art pieces for each animal instead of 2? Like and again, it's a nitpicky thing. It's a small thing. I don't really care that much, but it's kind of like, but why did they skimp? It's weird.
But dude, those 8 illustrations, that would have doubled the art demand for the game. Doubled.
Why did they just get 1 piece of art for each animal and just rotate it 90 degrees for each
just
card?
Every time?
Yeah, that's what I would have done.
It's too true. But here's what I want to know though is which way is the right way? Which one is the mirror?
Depends on the card, man. I can't speak for all of them right now. I got to look at all the cards.
Okay. Like if you're going to hunt one of these guys and you're going to aim for the heart, you need to know like where actually is the heart.
That's imperative, man. I mean, this game is not about hunting at all. It's like the opposite, but I mean,
there is a bear though.
Maybe that's the expansion. Maybe you're just murdering all the animals that you put on your
No,
area.
The expansion is just the additional art that they left out. That's all it is.
that adds replayability for me for sure.
Definitely, dude.
It's just 4 replacement cards. Or 8 replacement cards.
That'd be a legendary spam, a legendary troll to just put out.
Well, it reminds me.
We should make a game sometime and do that.
It reminds me actually of the Marine Worlds expansion. So this is really weird. I opened up this expansion and it adds some of those new tokens that you get for advancing along the conservation track. There's some of these like bonuses where it's first come, first serve. So it adds in a handful more of those. Good, right? And then there's another punch board, a tiny punch board in the expansion box that says use the, and it's the exact same type of, like all the new little bonuses that they added in that were on the main punch board, it's all of those identical again on a tiny little punch board. And it has a note that says use these instead of the ones on the main punch board. I believe, if I remember correctly, this is because people were complaining that the ones that were included in the main punch board did not have the exact same color shade as the other ones from the base game. And so they, during another printing, I guess, or something, they included this little one with like the perfect exact shade, which in a way it's like, okay, good. This is something I complained about in my, in our pet peeves episode a while ago. But in this example, it doesn't really matter. Like you're like, to me, it's a little too nitpicky, but it reminds me of that same kind of thing.
Something worth complaining about, but not worth paying for.
Quite possibly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So that does it for Cascadia. I think this justifiably, I don't know what it was up against, but I think it justifiably won the Spiel des Jahres. I think it is a very clean, solid design with decent replayability that can easily be expanded upon, but in and of itself is a very good game.
I want to test now. I want to see what the nominees were for the 2022 Spiel des Jahres. Nominated against Scout and Top 10. I've never even heard of Top 10. Scout always looked kind of dumb to me, so this seems like an easy win. Wow, this 2022 is not a good year then.
Scout is not from 2022. Oh, what are you talking about nominated against Scout? No way, man. Scout's not from 2022.
It's the 2022 awards. I'm looking at it on Wikipedia, right here, right now.
Man, what
Game
are
of the
you
year.
talking about? Scout came out in 2019, my friend. What are you talking about?
Hey, it's just how it works, dude.
Was it also nominated against Fantasy Realms?
I don't know. Apparently, Dune Imperium was a nominee for Connoisseur Game of the Year in 2022, and that came out.
What are you
2021,
talking?
right?
Yeah, that didn't come out in 22 either. I think it came out in 2021 or 2020. I think Dune Imperium came out. I don't know what you're looking at, but that is disinformation that you're feeding me right now.
I'm gonna send you the snip. I'm gonna take a snipping tool.
Are you
right
sure
now.
this isn't just a list of games that have won the Spiel des Jahres?
No, dude. No, check it out.
Dude,
Paste
Dune
it.
Imperium came out in
Paste it right
2020. Get that crap out of here. Cody, based on this screenshot you just sent me, I am 99% sure this is Wikipedia, so get that crap out of here.
It is Wikipedia.
Well,
you gotta trust Wikipedia.
I don't, Cody, because every game you
All right,
listed other than Cascadia didn't come out in 2022.
I'm gonna click on their link then, which is linking to spieldesjahres.de/en/Kinderspiel des Jahres, a strong year overall /.
You could try to tell me that Dune Imperium was nominated for the Kinderspiel des Jahres. I will turn
why
you
did
off.
this just linked to the Kinderspiel? What's going on here?
Okay, let's just move on, Cody. I feel like this is a dead end. It's just, but Cody, everything you said is fake. I'm pretty sure is false.
Okay,
So let's
thanks,
just
dude.
land on that. Board
Thanks,
Banter. Exactly what I said at the beginning of the episode. These are games that we believe do not deserve their themes. Now that can be interpreted as the theme is so exceptional that even if the game is good, it still doesn't live up to it. But more likely, we both picked games that are not that great, but we enjoy the themes. Am I right?
I don't care about anything you just said because I'm on the Spiel des Jahres website now, and the jury statement says.
All right, we're gonna take 5.
Under
We're gonna take 5. We'll come
2022,
back.
Also nominated were Cryptid by Hal Duncan and Dune Imperium by Paul Denon.
How can that? The game came out.
I don't know.
What is this crap, Cody?
I don't know.
What is
I
this
don't
crap?
know, man.
An expansion
I mean,
came
we
out for
first-
Dune in 22.
Well, we first saw it with Fantasy Realms. We were super confused. So there's some weird arbitrary thing, I guess, where it doesn't matter when a game came out, like it can get nominated at a different point. But sometimes the year is just like when it officially became a game, whether or not it got into people's hands. So maybe it's something about the distribution.
That can't be. Scout came out in 2019. It cannot be on the 2022 Spiel des Jahres list.
I'm going to the Scout page now. So look under awards and honors.
I swear if it's nominated for 2022 game.
2022 Spiel des
What?
Jahres nominee on BGG.
Cody, there is something very fundamental about the Mayan calendar that we do not understand. Is it the Mayan calendar? Did I get that right?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, 2012, all the games were sucked out of reality and mixed up in their timeline and then spat back out on the Spiel des Jahres.
Everything pre-2012 is perfectly fine.
Anyway, you were talking about our board banter or something dumb like that, right?
Yeah, how'd you make your list?
I just went and tried to find games that I felt like they didn't deserve their theme.
Now, okay, so what I'm kind of getting at is, would you say any of the games on your list are even good games?
One of them is, and it's pretty popular. The next
Okay.
one is also pretty popular, but I think it's actually, a couple of them are popular, but I think are dumb.
Okay.
So it's kind of a 50-50.
There's a couple, at least one on my list that fits the exact same description. So
Okay, I got you. But yeah, when we were talking about this, you were saying how you wouldn't be able to just go through your top 100 to do this. And I actually started looking at my top 100 because I assumed if I went down to the
Right.
bottom of the top 100, I'd find games, that I didn't like as much for some reason. But I didn't get enough games off that, so then I just went through my entire list of games I've played to get some good items. And it was a close, it was a tight list. I couldn't really get many more than 6 or 7.
okay, I completely
So, yeah, how about you?
stopped at 5 because I had 5 that I felt were really decent picks.
Okay.
But none of these are on my top 100.
I'll let me give you a runner-up, one that didn't
Go
make
for
the
it.
list. Basically, might have been number 6 or 7. It kind of tells you if they're better than this, then yeah, I couldn't really think of much else. The Lewis and Clark adventure game. You remember that one?
I do.
which was a dumb game with sort of a cool theme. Lewis and Clark.
Well, there's another Lewis and
But it
Clark
was
game
trivia.
that's much more popular. I know Z.
Is there?
Z always championed it on the Dice Tower.
What's it called?
Just look up Lewis and. It might just be Lewis and Clark, the board
The
game.
Expedition.
And maybe yeah, that might be it. If it's ranked decently high, then that's probably it.
BGG is throwing some weird stuff at me. There's BGG or Lewis and Clark The Expedition, and then there's like 5 entries saying Lewis and Clark Uwe Rosenberg, Lewis and Clark Martin Wallace, Lewis and Clark Bauza and Katala.
And
what are all these?
And they all say 2014. I'm gonna click on the Uwe Rosenberg one. It's a promo card. Uwe Rosenberg is in the game as a card.
Okay.
So it's from
Hey, ranked
2013.
282.
Yeah, 282.
That's not bad.
no.
I'm getting some Stone Age vibes from the art of the board, and I'm now less interested.
Anyways, what are we talking about? Okay, my number 5. I'm going to lead us off, Cody, with my number 5.
Okay.
This is a game that was early on in both of our board game hobbies, a game that we played together, a Stonemaier game, a game with an incredible theme, with a game that I thought was fun, and then I played it another time, and I was like, this game's kind of weird. I tried to play it another time, and I was like, this game just does not work for me. Euphoria. Build a Better Dystopia, I believe, is the colon, the post-colon title.
Yeah.
Euphoria has a great tongue-in-cheek humor to it. It's this dystopian future. You have all these different factions, and they really lean into the things like the way that dystopian futures have already been put into media, really leaning into that and making a lot of basically flavor text jokes is really what it is, or jokes in the art. So the theme is really cool. You have the different factions. The game looks fantastic. It looks absolutely fantastic. It's dice placement, which is cool too. There's so much you can do with dice placement, but the game feels so clunky. It feels so slow. It feels like the things don't mesh as well as they should, the different factions and the different actions on them. I don't know, like it just doesn't work for me. Like I said, I've tried it a few times, and maybe I'm just was a bit beguiled by how good the game looked and the fact that it was a Stonemaier game. But after a couple plays, it was like the truth of the game really came through, and I was like, it's not. It just doesn't work that well.
I feel ashamed, dude, because for some reason I skipped right over Euphoria when I was glancing through.
This would be
all
on
my
your
games
list
to decide. This definitely would have made my list.
Yeah.
This probably would have been my number 3 or number 2 maybe.
Okay.
So I'll leave it off because I forgot.
Honorable mention.
But it's an honorable mention, and I 100% agree. I was very excited because we had played Scythe for sure at this point. Well, obviously, it was like the first one. I think maybe we'd played Viticulture.
Yeah, maybe.
As well. And we're like, Stonemaier, they make some good stuff. And then we tried Euphoria. It was like, Jamie, what's going on here, bro? What are you doing? Yeah, I was sad about it, but it's, you know. That's it.
Still sad about it, apparently.
Well, I'll hit you up with my number 5. This is a game that I got at Goodwill Home Slice, and that's already a bad sign because no good board games come out of Goodwill.
Not true.
Although I did see, I think it was Azul at Goodwill one time, but I already owned it. But what did you get at Goodwill that is worth mentioning? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That seems like a Goodwill game.
Absolutely.
In a positive way. This game, Master and Commander. I don't remember what it's actually called. Far Side of the World, the board game,
That's a
or something,
good choice.
or just Master and Commander. Yeah. So very cool. I know it's like a book series. This is more based off the movie, which is an excellent movie. Russell Crowe, Paul Bettany.
It's a very good movie.
Some other peeps. I think Billy Boyd is in it for a little bit too,
really?
actually. Yeah. It's kind of like a small role. And then they made this game where you have some cool ship minifigures or miniatures, and you push them around a little square grid, and you try to get like 3 hits on the other person and sink them. That's like literally all it is. There's a direction of the wind, so you roll a wind die, and the wind moves sometimes, and you have some advantage. But what I just described is like the entirety of the strategy involved in the game. That's all the tactics.
It's like a much more elegant looking, but functionally inferior version of Sonar.
Yeah, good point. So Sonar looks dumb because you have dry erase marks everywhere, but it definitely plays better than Master and Commander.
Yeah, that's a great choice. Would have made my list if I could have remembered how the game played well enough to say that it should make the list.
Sure. I do remember you had these little circle magnets you used to represent your health that you would attach to the bottom of your ships.
Oh, yeah.
And that was kind of cool.
Because the ships were metal too, right? So it was cool.
They were cool. They're like silver and bronze, I think.
Worth it for the bits. Use the bits in a different game.
Yeah. I wish I would have kept just the bits.
Stolen them from your parents.
It's probably back in a Goodwill somewhere.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
My number 4. Man, such a good theme, dude. I really enjoy this theme for the same reason that the majority of the general populace enjoys this theme, which is the, I believe, 2015 film Mad Max Fury Road. Absolutely love that kind of world that's depicted so well in that movie. Radlands is more of a, it's almost got more of a Borderlands feel to it, but it's all a very similar vibe. But Radlands, I played it twice, back to back, because we played it once, and I was like, I feel like I see some potential in this. Let's try it again, even though neither of us really enjoyed it. Played it again, we're both just like, man, it just felt so flat both times. Essentially, it's a kind of a hand management game where you're playing characters out on your side. It's 2-player only. Playing characters out on your side, trying to deal damage to the other person's characters, and ultimately trying to deal damage to like their little bases at the back. And your bases give you special powers. In general, there's nothing really innovative about this game at all. A lot of other 2-player kind of head-to-head TCG style games have this same kind of thing where you have a few bases that have special powers and they have hit points. You're playing characters out to defend them and you're trying to destroy the other person's bases. I don't know what it was about this game, but it just fell flat. I mean, and the theme looks cool. The game looks great, but man, it was just kind of meh.
Yeah, and I've played some other games like this. Like, did we ever play Legend of the Five Rings, the card game?
We played it once. Again, that's another game that like completely erased from my memory.
Yeah, well, it's the same style of thing where you're trying to break the other person's bases, and then eventually you win if you like break enough of them, and there's a little resource system in it. But yeah, it's same. Did I just give it to you?
No, I borrowed it to try it out to see if I was interested in keeping it, and I brought it back to you. I was like, nah, not worth it.
And then I don't have it anymore, so somehow I got rid of it after that. I don't know if I sold it or
something.
Set it
on fire.
Yeah, sure. How's that for a Radland, dude? Yeah, also sad. I feel ashamed again because this is another one that I just skipped over, I guess, when I was looking through my list. It probably would have made the list, but not as seriously as Euphoria. And, you know, just to not have too much crossover, I'll just pretend like I meant to not put it on the list.
Don't make me put you on trial, Cody, next episode.
Okay. It probably would have been like my number 5 or something.
Oh, jeez.
I'm going to have to do the whole reinstatement thing into the tabletop
Zimoyim
shop and
Zichum,
do the Zimoyim Zichum, yeah. No, my number 4, though, is a game that I also feel decently strong about. And I guess we didn't really establish, I think it's kind of obvious, though, but as our games get closer to the number 1, I'm assuming it's like they deserve the theme even less for whatever extent. Either the game was really bad or the theme was just so good.
Basically, the disparity between how good the game was and how good the theme is wider.
Okay.
On the
Okay, that's how we do it. That's how we operating. For me, this is Lords of Waterdeep, the sort of D&D board game. I know a lot of people enjoy this. I don't think it's in the top 100, but I thought it was like 200 or 300 something on BGG. I'm not going to take the time to look it up and verify. I know it's well appreciated, but it just didn't do it for me. It's kind of it's like a worker placement game, right? I don't even remember now. I owned it for a while and then sold it. What I do specifically remember is that you're just collecting cubes. Like, you're trying to complete quests, and that's the most D&D-esque part of it. And to complete quests, you have to have like some mages and some warriors, some fighters, people of different classes. But those are represented just by a purple cube and an orange cube and a white cube. And it just really takes you out of the experience where you're you're basically just completing contracts and spending stuff to complete the contracts. It does not at all feel like you're actually going on an adventure or you're completing a quest. So it's something that, I don't know, maybe that's hard to translate to a board game format without just being D&D at that point as a tabletop game. But I was let down. I was drenched with the sadness of Water Deep.
So this,
Lords Up.
Cody, is number 86 currently on the top 100.
So it is in the top 100.
Yeah, it most certainly
How
is.
did you feel about this?
Well, I only ever played it once. I remember the game relatively fondly. Like, I would like to play it again. Yeah, you're right. It's a bunch of cubes. It's just worker placement and cubes. But I remember enjoying the player interaction quite a bit. If I remember right, the buildings are not preset. You have like a stack of buildings that slowly come out, and you're trying to fulfill contracts and stuff.
Yeah.
So there is some like kind of variety in that aspect and how things come out too. So I remember relatively enjoying it. I would like to play it again. It lives in my memory, not at all as a disappointment or a bad game. So
It had a bad box too.
the box is weird.
say that.
Yeah, the box is weird.
It wouldn't close all the way, and it had like a weird double lip thing
Yeah.
to it. Yeah.
For no apparent reason.
Yeah.
My number 3 is a game that you used to own. You might still own. This is, I believe, a Vlada Chvátil game. Galaxy Trucker is my number 3.
Ah.
I like the idea. Okay. I don't like how the game looks either. I do like the theme. I don't like how the game looks. But the theme of you're decking out your ship at the beginning of a round, and then you just like fly that ship, and all this like random crap happens to you, and you see how far you can get with your ship, right? Cool idea. The theme, like I like that kind of smuggler vibe. I don't know if smuggler is the right word, but it gives kind of a Firefly vibe. Again, how the game looks does not at all, but that kind of theme most certainly does. And I just love that. But man, I really did not enjoy this game. Like, this game is just, the first half of the game is just like in like hectic real time chaos, and then the second half of the game is just pure randomness. Like, I don't know, not fun for me at all. Not fun for me at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I did consider this one for the list. I do not own it anymore. I think I gave it to my brother. I don't know if they've had a chance to really play it much. And I actually think they did a pretty good job with the theme. I agree that maybe it could have been cooler, implemented differently, but the sense, it had a very comedic nature to it, sort of tongue-in-cheek aspect, and I like that, and I think the mechanics of the game matched that. But I didn't enjoy it enough to keep it, so that's kind of to the extent of where it's like, it's okay.
And this is another one that is pretty well loved, but it is. But it's such a weird game that there's gonna be people like me that are absolutely like, I'm not interested in this at all, and there's gonna be other people who just absolutely love it. So,
yeah. Do you recall this game? It shows up in the YouTube series VGHS, Video Game High School.
This game?
Yeah.
No, man.
They're not playing it. It's like just in passing. But the Drift King, he's walking over to Ted with his gang, and they're like off to play board games. They're like, "Would you like to join us, Theodore?" That's probably not the right quote. That's probably not at all the right quote. But in his hand, he has Galaxy Trucker. I was like, I get that now.
Well, I don't blame him for not joining, because I'm assuming he didn't.
I don't think so. But next time you watch it, look for it, and you'll understand. All right. My number 3, I was very disappointed by. We're getting into the stronger disappointment realm here with the top 3. It was a game that it was very well received on BGG, and very quickly it came out, I think, last year, and it was a good price. It was a deck builder. I was like, yes, this looks dope.
Oh.
And then I finally played Star Wars Deck Builder, and I was like, this is a very simple, boring deck builder. This does not do justice to Star Wars at all. It's like if it was some other random themed deck builder, you wouldn't bash on it as much. But as such, for me, this is kind of an obvious just cash gimmick. Here's an IP. Here's a cool IP everyone likes, and let's make a sort of disappointing deck builder out of it. And the reason I just really didn't enjoy it is it was a little bit tedious to learn in the way that Fantasy Flight does a lot of their games. They have all these concepts and systems and keywords, and once you finally learn it, you start playing it, you're like, I don't make many decisions. It's like, okay, I have this many resources that I randomly drew. I'm just going to spend them all on the most expensive thing I can buy, and then you just keep recycling that over and over again.
I'm shocked this isn't your number one. Because A, it's a Star Wars theme. B, the game feels so, from what you say, uninspired and rather drab that I'm shocked this isn't your number one.
My number one deserves its place. I'll just say
well,
that.
My number two and my number one could have gone either way. Actually, my number two started out as my number one. They were flipped, and the more I thought about it, I ended up flipping them back because the one I have as my number one now is such a knife to the heart. It just had to be up on number one. So my number two also is based on a very, very popular IP. This is Harry Potter Death Eaters Rising. Oh, it sounds so cool. Sounds so epic. Sounds so like...
Is this just the Thanos Rising Harry Potter
It
version?
is. We had this discussion during our IP Games episode. It literally is. Just a reskin of... and then they made the Last Airbender one too, right?
Fire Nation Rising, yeah.
Yeah, this is just like you have some cards. I don't remember it that well. You have some cards. You allocate them to different spots. It's a cooperative game. And then there's a bunch of dice rolling. And it's just... That's all it is. It's a bunch of dice rolling. I mean, I don't know. And the cooperative aspect is pretty minor, I felt as well. And I only played a 2-player game. Maybe with more players, there's more interaction and there's more helping each other that you can do to accomplish cool things. But, like, this is not something I want to spend my time doing, right? There's so much luck and there's so little reward. Even if you do well, you feel like you're just getting lucky. You're doing well because you're getting lucky. Like, there's no way in which playing this game is a rewarding experience. So,
Yeah, obviously I haven't played that one, but I played Thanos Rising. And Thanos Rising was a runner-up for this list. You just roll some dice and you put them in place. We play this with another couple that we'll play games with every now and then, and it's an easy one to break out, and that's what I appreciate about it. And, you get to see the Marvel stuff. But for the strategic decisions you're making, you're definitely just at the mercy of the dice.
There's not a lot of agency.
Yeah. The game plays you more than you play it.
It's like poker.
Yeah. Unless you're real good.
I ain't real good.
Okay. We should play some poker sometime, dude.
Because I just told you I'm not good at it? That sounds like you're trying to take advantage of me right there, Cody.
We'll play poker for board games. We'll put board games.
I'd rather play for money.
Okay, let's do that. A far less valuable possession. Okay, well, my number two is a little odd, I think, where it's placed, because the disparity for IP and the delivery is greater with Star Wars Deck Builder.
Well, is this the Lord of the Rings
but
game?
No, it's not. But I think I just had higher expectations for this game.
I think I know what this is.
Yeah, this is a game that came out a year or two ago. A great deal of illustrations and artwork went into this. A very compelling theme and atmosphere that was developed. This is Flamecraft, which was very highly praised, and a lot of people love it. Yeah, it was widely purchased about when it came out. I'm assuming this was a Kickstarter.
I like that you can't say like it sold really well. It was widely purchased.
No, I got to use cooler words, dude. I need to expand my vocabulary.
But what, widely purchased? That's not expanding your vocabulary, Cody.
Need to expand my use of phrases. Sure. How about that? Okay.
This is actually not what I was thinking you were going to say. So maybe what I'm thinking of is your number one, actually.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll find out, I guess. But Flamecraft, it's a very immersive thing, very cool looking. But then you play the game, and granted, the game is not terrible, but it's not anything particularly interesting or different or unique. It's really just the theme that I think sold it so well. But it comes down to you have I always complain when you have different resources in a game and they all basically function the same way. Like if there's nothing unique about a resource, it might as well be resource A, B, C, and D as opposed to what they actually are.
This game's like that too.
Yeah. There's 6 different resources though. That's the thing, and all of them are basically the same thing. And I don't even remember what they're all. It's like food and iron, and like gems. But yeah, food. I think food was one of them because it's like the 6 different types of dragons. Yeah, it was a real disappointment for me. I played it once and sold it like almost right away, and I was sad.
The theme absolutely sold that game. Like that is guaranteed, and it looks incredible. It looks absolutely incredible. Would not have done nearly as well if. This is why I'm convinced that if you make a mediocre game, and it looks like a mediocre game, it will sell mediocrely. But if you make a mediocre game and it looks good, it will sell like hotcakes because people will justify the fact that it's mediocre because of how good it looks. They will be fooled into thinking the game is better than it is because it looks so good on the table.
Yeah. Which is sad. Like it's cool how cool it looks, but I also want to enjoy playing the game, not just looking at it, you know?
Okay.
All right. Hit us up with your number one, the garbagiest game that you'd like to offer.
The most
Nate.
trash of trash.
Yes.
This game is probably my biggest. We didn't talk about this when we were going over our top 100s of everything, top whatever. This game is probably the biggest disappointment of last year, of 2023. Games I played in 2023.
Okay.
Simply because of the theme. When I found out this game existed, I was like, yes, absolutely. I'm so on board for this. Because there's another game that's already set in the same universe, and I own that game, and I love that game. It's one of my favorite games. The theming is so cool. The game that I own is called Abyss. The Abyss world is amazing. It looks incredible. The game itself also is incredible. Last year, I played a game called Conspiracy, which is a game set in the Abyss universe. And it felt like Abyss with about half the content shaved off the top, and it comes in this tiny little tin box, and you're like, okay, well, maybe it's just like the travel version of Conspiracy, but with some new interesting twists. It's just like Abyss 0.5. You know how like some games are like, well, this isn't the 2.0 version, it's the 1.5. This is like Abyss 0.5. They just like technically there's some new kind of mechanisms and some new little twists, but really what it feels like is that they took the game, they dumbed it down, they made everything smaller, and it was just like, I was so excited because I love the theme and the world and I love Abyss. And then this game was like, slap you across the face. Like, what you thinking? You thought I was going to be good? No. This is a mediocre game with exceptional theming, and it actually did. I don't think anybody talks about this game. I don't think anybody cares about it. So this is the exception that proves my rule earlier about Flamecraft.
Did Katala do it?
I'm checking right now. So this came out in 2019. It is a Bruno Catala and Charles Chevalier. I'll say that right, I guess. I don't know. Both guys that did Abyss made this. And yeah, just kind of sad. Yeah.
That's real sad. So they didn't even do like anything unique or different with it?
I mean, it wasn't a carbon copy of Abyss. Like there was like the drafting was a little bit different, but there was nothing really interesting, nothing that felt really innovative, and everything felt simpler than Abyss. And Abyss is already not that complicated of a game, and everything in this game just felt even simpler, and I was just so disappointed.
Yeah, I won't play it.
Yeah, don't.
Sounds good.
So Abyss, for reference, Abyss is pretty simple. It's a 2.32 as far as weight goes on BGG.
Okay.
Conspiracy was a 1.79, I think, or 1.89. Like it's really, yeah.
What was this marketed at? Was it supposed to be like the mini version, the simple version?
Like it feels like it's supposed to be the traveler version, except you couldn't. You're still splaying cards out and drafting things, and it still takes up some tables, so it can't be a travel. Other than that, it comes in a tiny little box. But I don't know what, like, I guess they had another idea that they wanted to try and implement, and I think it was a mistake putting it into the Abyss universe.
So it's tiny, non-epic Abyss.
Absolutely. It's like Abyss for kids. Yeah.
That's sad. Okay. Well then, I'm happy to close us off with my number one. A game that had... No, not the game. The theme, the IP has a cult following. It is beloved. People adore this IP. There is another game that they made for this IP that is no way related to this game. This game is trash. It is garbage. It is not even worth the $10.37 that you can buy it for on Amazon, which is saying something.
It is saying
Firefly Shiny Dice. It's some mats and some cards and some dice. And it's really not even the fault of the designer. It's the publisher's fault that it really got trashed so bad. Like, it still isn't that great, but the publisher, like, overrid some rule, which, like, just broke the game even more. It's just sad. You roll some dice, and the dice represent, like, your crew and your passengers, and they have different abilities that you can activate, so you can try to re-roll other dice and try to get, like, some sort of melded combination of dice that can do something for you, but you can just randomly, like, just bust and just get no points. It's sort of like a push your luck game, but it's very punishing. It's entirely luck based. It's dumb. It's sad, and you can't do that to Firefly.
That's what hurts the most.
Like, people love
right?
Firefly.
That's what hurts the most. They did it to our baby. They did it to Firefly, and they shouldn't have.
They did. No one touches Firefly like that.
Yeah.
Just don't.
No, I'm proud to say I've never played this game, and proud to say that I never will be. So,
in the same way that it's worth watching the Last Airbender movie, it's kind of worth trying Firefly Shiny Dice just to understand.
Just really, truly, you can't understand how sad it is unless you experience it firsthand.
Exactly. You have to mourn with us.
No, I don't want that kind of pain.
Okay. I'll hold it for the both of us.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Like, when we brought up this topic, I was like, that is going to be at the top of your list. So,
100%.
Yeah.
105%.
Of luck. That's how much luck is in that game.
It's rotten. That's what it is, Nate. It's rotten.
Rotten.
Yeah.
That Goram game.
So many good phrases.
Yeah.
So many bad games.
I love that show. That 10 out of 10 recommend that show to anybody listening to this podcast. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you like. There's something for everybody in that show.
Watch the movie too, although you'd be sad.
No spoilers.
No. Well, that's the list. That was a fun list.
It turned out better than I thought it would. Like, I was worried that I maybe couldn't find games that had great themes that I didn't like, but I absolutely did, and I probably could have found more.
Well, it was a list that we got to talk about games that we don't normally talk about, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Like Lords of Waterdeep, I don't know if we've ever brought up on the podcast.
Yeah.
Master and Commander, definitely not.
You know, what's funny is you said you had trouble, like, making a full list, but then, like, during my list, there were multiple occasions where you're like, I completely skipped over that game.
I know. Well, it's because, like, I was looking through my list of, like, 230 games that I've played, and you're kind of scrolling it, like, on a phone, and so it can be easy to miss some, I guess.
Oh, you know what I did, actually? I have all my games in BGG, and I have ratings for them in BGG. So I went to my BGG collection, sorted it by, like, the games that I've rated the lowest at the top, and then I just went from there and scrolled through.
That's not a bad idea. Most of my games are also in BGG, but I need to like update it, I think.
It feels like a maintenance thing, kind of, doesn't it? Like, every once in a while I'm like, what are the, like, I haven't updated this in a while, so I should go look at it again. Yeah. Well, thank you, listener, for joining us. Cody, is there anything you need to say before we cut it?
And remember, I live in Cascadia and Nate doesn't, so who really has the right to give an opinion?
All right, hello and welcome to the outro where we do the news about Mike Tyson. Cody, how do you feel about the Mike Tyson fight coming up in July?
That's what you get when you mess with the postman.
Get out of here with that.
That's all I got.
Okay, well, that's something we can end on if you want.